Dear brothers, what's up, boys? Hope all is well. Happy Thursday to all of you. It's a beautiful day. Time to get after it. And we're going to get into a favorite topic of mine today that's bothered me or it affected me anyways, for a lot of years. And as I talk to more of you, I talk to more men generally. This is something that all of us deal with in some capacity. This is kind of a universal, every man in some capacity has got to deal with this. And so I want to talk through that today. And so let's kind of go back in time a little bit. When I was in my early years of college and even into graduate school and even sometimes today, I'd have moments during the day where I would hear voices in my head. And I'm not talking like the schizophrenic type of hearing voices, but inward talk. And it was only ever kind of whispers, but they were clear and they always had a very succinct message. And they would say things along the lines of, maybe you're not cut out for this, pal. You aren't strong enough for this. Find a way to get out of it. Sleep a little bit longer. Why would you get up when life is kind of this difficult? You just aren't special enough to make it. Why not drink a little more? Isn't being numb the best option? Don't you feel guilty for not being a better guy? Why even bother altogether? It's okay to be selfish. Why don't you take care of you today? Yeah, why not? One of my favorites was just go back to the gym and keep working out. You have no need to focus on your mind or your mental whatever. Vanity is so much bigger of a pleasure, isn't it? So, simple examples. But at that time in my life, I was in a perpetual state of listening to that voice. And it pulled me towards it. It's like, it's magnetic. It's always telling me to embrace pleasure or accept being kind of lazy or find fault with myself or have this sense of unworthiness. It was always some extreme. But after months and years of listening to this, I had been convinced that many of my efforts were in vain and that I should be pursuing other things. To the voice in my head, the good things in life were pleasurable, selfish, distracting. And the bad things in life were anything meaningful, actions that had delayed gratification, any and all performances which required some kind of hard work or more determined effort. The voice in my head loved the status quo, just enough to get by, but never more, and never at the expense of my own pleasure. The pleasure will bring you happiness. Just embrace it. That was what I kept hearing in my head. And it also loved to mention how misery was normal, that using other people for my own benefit was the natural state of life, so you might as well do it. Ultimately, anything that was selfish and deviant were being whispered to me daily. And I loved it. I embraced it. I listened intently. The pleasure felt good. The selfishness felt good. The focus on me was incredible. Until it wasn't. And week after week, something destructive would happen. I would be using others, failing in my work, focusing on myself and not my friends, delaying studying or doing my schoolwork. They weren't necessarily big blow-ups, if you will, but they were small micro failures. And across time, those micro failures built up. And they kind of mounted like this monster. And by the time I end up having to face it, I've got nothing I can do but bow to it and hope that it doesn't eat me alive. And in the War of Art, Stephen Pressfield describes this kind of voice as what he deems resistance, or essentially anything that stops you from doing what you are meant to do, or from pursuing something, anything that deviates you from pursuing excellence. It's conniving, intelligent, patient, and at its root, it's malicious. Pressfield describes it as resistance. I call that resistance the devil, because that is the voice that's whispering. His little demons, his minions. It's kind of like Wormwood in the Screwtape Letters. They're these creatures that whisper sweet nothings in your ears, trying to sway you off the path, to catch us at our weakest. They don't make us do these deeds or do the bad things or harm ourselves, but they convince us that we're doing the right thing when we do. And their goal is to make you feel that it's okay to be selfish, pleasure-seeking, and this kind of like fraudulent sheep, pulled here, pulled there, by whatever is most advantageous to you in that moment. If it will benefit me today, I want it. I want that quick, pleasured relief right now, and that's the right thing to do. Don't worry about tomorrow. Live for today. Famous line you'll hear from all these new age folks. But worse is when the pleasure isn't good enough anymore, they resort to the ideas of you being worthless, or that you should be unbelievably guilty and shamed for what you've done in the past. How could anyone love you? How could anyone care for such a foul thing like you? And understand something, fellas, that's when the devil is at his finest work. When he and his little creatures can whisper that you are nothing, that you mean nothing, that you will never amount to anything. And they try each and every day to ensure that you're convinced of that. Gents, when we reflect on anything worthwhile in the world, there is absolutely no room for that voice. There's no room for the devil. And let me clue you all in on something that took me far too long to learn myself. God does not tell you that you are unworthy. I'll repeat that because that changed my life. God does not tell you that you are unworthy, or that you should be selfish, or that you aren't good enough. Those are the lies of the evil one. They're manipulations designed to keep us from becoming what we are intended to be. God gave us the opportunity to be excellent, to achieve greatly, to become closer to Him, to have a relationship with Him. He does not make unworthy people. He does not make individuals that should feel immense shame or guilt or feel like they are nothing. You are in His flock. He is your shepherd. He wants to have a relationship. He yearns to have a relationship with you. And the devil simply can't allow that. And the only way that he can thwart that is by whispering in your ear. Because once you become acquainted with a higher power, you become impenetrable. You have a fortress that the devil and his crew simply can't get to. And they then have to move on to somebody else because you simply aren't going to be worth their time. I want to make a quick point, though, because we were talking about shame and guilt. We should have a sense of shame for the ills that we've done in the world. Don't get me wrong on that. Without a good sense of shame, we begin to see our sin less and less, and we move closer to anarchy and just being more strictly evil. C.S. Lewis has the quote on that, where the more you see the evil in your life, the further away from it you get. But the more of it you do, the less of it seems to bother you. Out of context, obviously. And just understand that all of us have fallen short. We've all had misgivings. We've all screwed up. But that doesn't make us unworthy. God, Jesus, purchased our worthiness on the cross. And as I've said before, and I will continue to say, to perform any base or evil action or to do ill is simply below the heroic man. And we are called to act worthy. We have to act like heroes. We will fall. We're going to screw up. We're going to fail. but we have to stop allowing evil in our heads to convince us that, one, it's normal to be selfish and pleasure seeking and just be a dick. And two, that we're unworthy and worth nothing. So what's the point of life? Those are the voices that we have to get rid of, fellas. So as I try to wrap this up today, I want you to understand this. Firstly, if you hear that voice of negativity, selfishness, pleasure, unworthiness, that's the devil. Period. End of story. Second, the divine's voice, God's voice, says to get up, be good. You are my beautiful creation, destined for magnificent things. We need you in the front lines. Go get your sword. Pick up your shield. We have to ride. I made you worthy. Now go fulfill your duty. Work, protect, and lead. Anything that tells you that you're worth nothing is not from God, boys. You are the one that he leaves the 99 for, all of you, because you were made for something great, something beautiful. Mediocrity is the serpent's goal, but it can't be ours anymore. I love you, boys. I hope that might benefit you today. That has been one of the biggest changes and most important parts of my life, was realizing that I am worthy of the grace that I've gotten in life. I am worthy to go be more than I am. I am worthy to go help the world and to contribute. I'm worthy of those things. And all of you listening are also. You are not nothing. You are worth something to God more than anybody, but certainly to others. Embrace that. But if you embrace that you are worthy, that means that you have to go and do. That means that you have to go be actionable. You have to find your identity. You have to give. You have to lead, protect, be a man. That is what we're called to do. God bless, boys. Be strong. Let's get after it.